What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Adventure Outpost. Another weekend has come and gone, so it is time once again to talk those juicy box office weekend totals. But before we dive into all that good stuff, if you can, as always, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button. Let's talk all those good stuff down in the comments. Drop it all down below. Let me know what you thought of the movie this weekend. If you caught anything else to talk about these box office numbers, let's sound it off down below. But now let's waste no more time and we'll dive right into all of that good stuff because there is a lot of good stuff to get into. It was not a question of if we would do better than the previous weeks here in the box office top 10, but how much better we would do, because as always with this release, we knew this weekend was coming. The Black Panther Wakanda Forever movie was releasing, so we knew it was going to be a gargantuan juggernaut of a weekend, and it absolutely was. Still not the big, huge forecast that they were expecting. I heard plenty of people talking about that this was going to be the biggest weekend release of 2022, and that wasn't the case, but that doesn't really matter. It took number 2, but not by that much. It was not that far behind number 1. This movie still had an absolutely ridiculous, huge total for the weekend. It made all the money in the world. We wondered how much better it would do over last week. Well, we were positive 282.9%. That's right. We did 282% better than we did last weekend. Last weekend, we couldn't even break 60 million. This weekend, off of Black Panther alone, the top 10 box office weekend took in $206 million. So that movie really brought us into big playing time for this weekend. A huge win at the box office. The nice kick in the ass that the theaters needed and the studios needed and all that good stuff. It is now heavily sending us now into the next few weeks into the holiday season. Black Panther is kickstarting us off, and we're going to dive into the top 10 and we're going to take a look at all that good stuff right now. Let's go to the charts. Obviously, it was no surprise to anybody that Black Panther was going to take number 1. It debuts in the number 1 spot, taking in a whopping $180 million off of a $250 million budget. That is a fucking phenomenal opening weekend. $180 million opening with 3-day total is absolutely ludicrously stupid. It is number 2, only behind Doctor Strange, which I believe only took in $7 million more. I think Doctor Strange's weekend total was $187 million. So this one was not too far behind it. It almost had the goods to break it, but it's going to settle for just behind it, but still an absolutely stellar opening weekend for them. The question now is, will this movie have legs, or is it going to follow the trend of the other Marvel movies from this past year in Phase 4 and really just dive off in its second weekend? I think Doctor Strange had an insane drop-off for the second weekend. Thor had an insane drop-off. Spider-Man did, but Spider-Man made so much fucking money that it was impossible for it to not have an insane drop-off, but it still made a lot of money over this time. This movie obviously is going to make its budget back. It's going to make a shitload of money. The question is just how much will it retain week to week? I think this movie has the best chance of any of the Marvel movies coming out this year to have legs at the box office and to keep making money over time. The critical reception seems to be pretty big on this movie, the audience reception just as well, so I'm sure this is going to be a big win for Marvel. Dropping in at number 2, Black Adam finally drops out of the number 1 after 3 weeks on top, and its 4th week takes in 2nd place. It drops 52.5% to bring in $8.6 million, to bring its total domestic haul to 151 off of a $195 million budget. I can't believe that we're still standing here, but the release of Black Panther now might absolutely ruin Black Adam's chances of, I think it'll still break even, but of it making like a decent amount of money on top of that, I think Black Panther is totally going to cut the legs out from under it, because the fact that we're in week 4 now and this movie still hasn't passed its initial budget domestically, a little concerning. Obviously worldwide, it's still making a decent amount of money. It's getting up there. It still, I think, has a little bit of a ways to go to break even. I was reading somewhere that it had to make at least $500 million to break even, but I don't know if it's going to get there at this point. I think Black Panther and all the other holiday movies that are coming out right now might just like sweep the legs out from under Black Adam and keep this movie from like really getting into the green, which is crazy. I did not think that we would get there. I thought that this movie would be a sure bet, and obviously it still made a large amount of money. Like, I'm not discrediting anything from what this movie was able to accomplish. accomplish, but it's definitely not as, it still shows that DC has a ways to go before it can just consistently put up Marvel numbers. If this release of Black Panther has shown anything, it is that Marvel is still the absolute king when it comes to superhero movies. In third place is Ticket to Paradise in its fourth weekend, dropping only 28.6%, taking in $6.1 million to bring its total domestic haul to $56 million off of a $60 million budget. This is another movie, much like Black Adam, that is struggling to pass its initial budget at the domestic box office. And it goes to show just how important the worldwide box office is when you bring into these numbers. Because if we were to take this just domestically, Ticket to Paradise is losing money right now. 4 weeks in, it still can't pass its initial $60 million budget. Little troubling. But once you add in your worldwide total, this movie is making a disgusting amount of money for a romantic comedy. Very good for them. They're obviously going to be making some money back here, and it turns out this is a good return on investment for them. It's managing to still hang around the top 10. It's got legs. It consistently does business at my theater every week. This past weekend, even with Black Panther, Ticket to Paradise was still crushing numbers. It was still managing to sell out on the weekend. This movie is still very popular with the older demographic, and especially as good counter programming right now to people that aren't that interested in seeing superhero movies. So this movie is released right now at a perfect time to really capitalize on that counter programming and make some decent money. In number fourth place, Lyle Lyle Crocodile, jumping back into the top 5. It's been consistently hanging around in the bottom of the top 10. I was really thinking that it was going to end up dropping out soon, but it makes a nice jump up here into the top 5 once again. Still down 5% in its 6th week. It takes in $3.2 million to bring its total domestic budget to $40 million off of a $50 million budget. This is another movie that is struggling to make money at the box office. We were looking at these movies for the fall that we thought would be sure bets that were just not sure bets, and they are struggling right now, Lyle being one of the most prominent one. But still, you got to take a win where you can get it, and for it to be in its 6th week and to jump back up into the top 5 of the top 10 is impressive to say the least. I think this is another movie that is good counter programming to, younger kids who aren't really ready for the superhero movies yet, or you need a good family movie to bring everybody out to that's not a superhero movie, something that a whole family can enjoy. I think Lyle is enjoying that nice little moment in the sun right now. But the absolute big winner right here in the top 5 right now is our number 5th spot. It is Smile in its 7th week. Drops 41.5%. No surprise there considering we're past Halloween and these movies are starting to die out. But it still manages to make $2.3 million, bringing its total domestic haul finally over the $100 million mark, where it sits now at $102 million domestically off of a $17 million budget. Smile finally joins the ranks of the $100 million domestic club for 2022. This is a huge win for Smile, a huge win for horror. This movie absolutely just blew away everybody's expectations, and they should be as happy as a clam right now with what they were able to do with this movie. And I'm sure we are not too far away from seeing greenlit Smile 2. Smile harder. Taking a look now at the back 5, in number 6th place is Pray for the Devil in its 3rd week, dropping 48.4%, taking in $2 million to bring its total domestic haul to $16.9 million off of a $7 million budget. This movie, much like Smile, is just starting to drop off the face of the planet as we get past Halloween now and we are into our holiday season. These movies just start to take a nosedive. I think that their time in the sun is pretty much at an end here. But Pray for the Devil managed to make a nice little chunk of change for itself over that $7 million budget. Nothing that's going to break the bank or seem like a huge win, but when you look at so many movies here that are struggling to make back their initial budget domestically, that is a nice win in and of itself. Holding strong in 7th place is The Banshees of Inisherin in its 4th week, dropping 17.4%, taking in $1.7 million to bring its total domestic haul to $5.7 million off of a $15 million budget. This is a movie much like most of these indies movies that never really make back their budget, but they're just these art house movies that are out there to enjoy. These people with their art, I don't think they care so much about making their budget back. Obviously, the studios, I'm sure, are, but movies like this, they're a tough sell. I saw the movie just recently this past weekend. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, but I can see why this is a movie that would be a tough sell to mainstream audiences. But I'm glad that movies like these are still still able to be made because the movie is super funny. It is weird and wild and bizarre, and it is such a piece of art that I'm glad exists here in the world. In 8th place is One Piece, filmed in its second week, dropping a whole doggy 84.5%, taking in $1.4 million to bring its total domestic haul to $12 million off of a budget that we have no fucking clue. This movie isn't just diving off of the face of the cliff. I didn't make a chart to see if it beat Halloween, or I think it did end up beating Halloween Ends. Halloween Ends was towards the bottom one, but looking at the biggest second to week drop-offs, obviously with anime films, it happens from time to time. This movie has a huge drop-off. I didn't bother to do a chart for that. I apologize. I just realized it now as we were going in that an 84.5% drop is fucking staggering. Maybe next week we'll look in and see, but for now, just know that that definitely is somewhere in that top 15 of the ones that we did from Halloween Ends a few videos. That is a huge drop-off, and it is a shame to see that this one is not having as much legs as some of the other anime movies have been able to accomplish. In 9th place is Till in its 5th week, dropping 6. Oh my god, that is not good. 66.6, the number of the beast. It dropped 66.6%, taking in $618,000 to bring its total domestic haul to $8 million off of a budget that we are unclear about. This movie, much like some of the other low budget movies, it's a tough sell with audiences when most people want to go see their mainstream movies where they could turn their brain off and just enjoy and get those big pop art pieces, much like the superhero movies, much like action movies, all that stuff. These more low budget dramas are a bit tougher of a sell for people. I thought the movie was fantastic, but obviously it is struggling to make some money at the box office. But again, we don't know how much this budget was, so maybe it's not so far off from actually making some money, but it all remains to be seen. But again, money is not the number one dollar sign when it comes to looking at these movies and their value. Every single one of these movies has value as a piece of art. And rounding out the top 10 is the movie Armageddon Time, entering the top 10 for the first time, even though it's in its 3rd week of release and still drops 55.6%. It took in $352,000 to bring its total domestic haul to $1.5 million off of a $15 million budget. This is a movie much like Till, much like Banshees of Inisherin, that we've just talked about ad nauseum already, where they are not movies that are going to make these huge, large sums that we're going to see, but they're these little pieces of indie drama art that we do enjoy just the same. I wanted to see this movie. I didn't get a chance to see it. It's not really playing anywhere near me. So it looks like I'm going to have to wait until it comes out into home video release, or if it starts to get a more wider release, if it starts to get some Academy Award buzz, maybe they might release it in some theaters down the road. With the debut of Black Panther Wakanda Forever this weekend, and it absolutely destroying box office records everywhere, Black Panther officially enters the charts for November as November's biggest opening for the 3-day weekend. We're going to take a look at a chart here right now and see our top 5 biggest earners for the weekend in November. Let's go to that good old chart, baby. As you can see here, Black Panther is the number 1 by a decent margin here with $180 million. Right behind it at number 2 was The Hunger Games: Catching Fire, brought in almost $160 million. It's settled right there, number 2 at $158 million. And then the rest of November is dominated by that saga that everybody would love to forget about. I know I would. And that is the Twilight Saga. As you can see in 3rd place, you got Twilight Saga New Moon with $142 million. Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 2 at $141, and Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 1 at $138 million. So November is absolutely just owned by these big, huge blockbuster movies. The holiday turns out to be a great time to release these huge juggernauts, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever shows that formula isn't going anywhere. Now, as always, we like to take a look here at our charts, and we like to look worldwide and domestically for the year for 2022. We're going to start here at the top 10 worldwide, as always. Once again, no change, but I am assured that this is the last weekend that we are going to see no change in the top 10 worldwide, because with the debut of Black Panther making $180 million here domestically, if you combine that with its international total, it made a whopping $330 million in its opening weekend worldwide. That's still not enough to break it into the top 10, but it is right outside. It is sitting right now at number 13 all-time for the year of 2022. So I'm sure when we look at this chart after next weekend, that movie will be sitting comfortably somewhere here in this top 10. But we take a look at our chart here right now. Holding firm at number 1 is Top Gun Maverick at $1.4 billion. Jurassic World right behind it at $1 billion. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness at $955 million. Minions: Rise of Gru at $936 million. The Batman at $770 million. Thor: Love and Thunder at $760 million. Watergate Fate Bridge at $626 million, Moon Man at $458, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore $405, and enjoying its final weekend here in the top 10, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 with $401 million. Now we also take a look here at our top 10 domestic. We did have some changes here. This one is getting a whole lovely little bit of shakeup. We take a look here at the chart and see what just missed out and was dropped out, and all the good stuff that's now joining the top 10 here domestically. As always, still in the first place is Top Gun Maverick at $716 million. Doctor Strange sits comfortably right behind it with $411. Jurassic World Dominion at $376. And our first big shakeup of the top 10 domestically, Minions Rise of Gru, after almost 3-4 months in the theaters, has now managed to pass the Batman domestically. It now sits at $369 million, 347,000, which is just enough to put it past the Batman's $369 million, 345,000. This movie, $2,000 more dollars. Look at that. What a huge shakeup here in the top 10. Thor: Love and Thunder still right behind that at 343. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 at 190. Black Panther Wakanda Forever debuts here in the top 10 in its opening weekend in the 8th place with $180 million. Black Adam moves up a spot to number 9 with $151 million domestically, and Elvis sits right behind that, also at 151, but only $17,000. Knocked out of the chart is Uncharted. It enjoyed its longevity since February in the top 10 domestic, but it now bows out for all these new champions. As always, we like to take a look at our fallen heroes. These are our heroes that did their time in the top 10, but have now bowed out and have moved on to greener passages. We take a look here at our chart as 2 movies now drop out of the top 10, and it's no surprise to anybody that they are 2 horror movies. We take a look here at the chart. Halloween Ends after 4 weeks on the chart bows out, as well as Terrifier 2 after spending a whopping 6 weeks on the top 10 chart. That is a huge accomplishment for such a small budget movie. Congratulations to you. You guys did your time. You earned your money. You had your say. Now you've bowed out. We'll see you on physical media. We'll see you on streaming. And as always, we thank you for your service. Lots to enjoy here on our 2022 blockbuster status chart. We have we got 2 movies, baby, joining the status chart. We go here to the list and take a look here. Obviously, as we've seen in our top 10 that we already went through, Black Panther Wakanda Forever debuting in the number 8th spot. Here in our blockbuster status chart, Black Adam moving up a space right behind it. But if we take a look all the way down at the bottom, baby, past all of our Elvis, past our Uncharted, our Nope, our Lightyear, our Lost City, our Bullet Train, is our new baddie on the block, Smile, joining what so many movies this year could not accomplish. It joins the 2022 blockbuster status, sitting right there at the bottom with $102 million. How many more movies for the rest of this year will have enough juice to make it to this spot? That remains to be seen. I know of at least one movie that's doing it, and that will be Avatar: The Way of Water. But however many other ones can do it, I don't know. I don't think any other movies might have the goods this year to pull it off. But that's a beautiful thing about the box office, is there's so many surprises in store for you week to week that we don't know. Somebody may be able to pull it out of their ass, and I can't wait to watch along and see if it happens. And that will do it for us this week here at the charts. It was a wild weekend to see just how well Black Panther was going to do. It was absolutely bonkers at my theater this weekend, just balls to the walls insanity of just so many people coming through our doors. We did so much business. It was such a good weekend for the theater. We did a lot of business, baby. And not just Black Panther. Black Adam was still doing a lot of business in my theater, and so was Ticket to Paradise. So those 3 movies combined made for a nice hell of a weekend here at the box office. It is firmly now into the stretch of holiday season movies. We are just cruising along. Next week, we'll see the release of the pseudo-horror movie, more of a thriller, The Menu, starring Ralph Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy. I'm super excited for that movie. This weekend, we'll also see the release of the movie She Said, which is an account of the 2 journalists that broke the story about that absolute scumbag of a human being, Harvey Weinstein. So it looks like it's going to be another lovely week at the box office. Obviously, it's going to be dominated by Black Panther, once again, easily taking the number 1 spot, but it'll be interesting to see just how well these next 2 movies do. I think of the 2, The Menu has a better chance of debuting somewhere higher up in the chart. Does it have enough to be at number 2, or will Black Adam hold on to that spot? That remains to be seen, but that's the good stuff about the box office, baby, is I can't wait till next weekend just to see how it does. It's just so good watching these these numbers week to week. I love it so much. But as always, that'll do it for us all here at the Outpost. Let me know down below what you thought of Black Panther this weekend, if you followed along on any of the charts, of what you're excited for this weekend and things to come. Any sort of like just out there picks you want to call for what's going on for the rest of the year, box office number wise, I want to hear it down below. But until the next video, you have been you, I have been me. These are the movies and the numbers we love to follow so much. And until next time, adventure on.